Hey, what's up, everyone? My name's Lionel. I'm your host for LT Productions, and you are watching I Watch You Watch. We are covering Beyond the Gates. These are episodes December 1st through December 5th. They had a short week on last week. I think it was just Monday and Tuesday, so we're just going to overlook that. There wasn't much going on anyways. Not much this week, but hey, we got to do what we got to do. But I appreciate everyone for coming to my channel. Please like this video in support of me, and you can subscribe if you're new. And you can leave your comments. So let's get into these week's episodes. Okay, y'all. So on the first, which was Monday, Smitty went up against Joey, and Derek grew a spine. All right. Smitty was going over donations with Martin's campaign manager when he ran across a check from Joseph R. Armstrong. After Smitty declared that the R stood for reprehensible, and the manager said that the contribution would have to be included in the financial reports. Smitty grabbed the check and made a beeline for the casino, introducing himself to Smitty as Bradley Smith. And then Joey called him Smitty, indicating that he was a step ahead of the reporter, meaning I know exactly who you are and your reputation. Smitty didn't want Joey's dirty money tainting Martin's campaign and returned his check to him. And then Joey said, "You think I'm dangerous?" And getting Smitty's affirmative answer, "You don't have a clue." That means with Smitty saying yes, and then Joey said, "You don't have a clue." Blah, 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 blah. Just then, Martin came in, who heard about the check from his manager, and told Joey that whatever business they had, it was between them, and it did not involve Smitty. Joey scoffed that people like the Richardson Smiths always try to do the right thing, yet no such thing existed. Armstrong believed in expediency and liked having the congressman in his pocket. Martin referenced the deal Joey had forced him to make when Joey had helped locate the kidnapped Chelsea, but he wouldn't accept Joey's check. He then told Joey that he needed to grow thicker skin because of Smitty saying that he thinks that he's a dangerous man. Joey decided that as long as Martin's actions in Congress and his businesses didn't intersect, everyone would be happy. And then Joey says that we'll never be done. As a warning, as Martin declared, their conference concluded. Once home, Smitty told Martin that the way he had stood up to Joey had been hot. But he still worried that Joey had them right where he wanted them. So obviously we're going to get a future story of something happening between those two, between Joey and Martin and possibly Smitty, which will be kind of interesting if we actually get this stirring up. Vanessa gleefully handed out heart-attached business cards to Fairmont Crest socialites, who had no idea what the business was. The widow McBride simply advised them to call the number on them. We had guest starring Miss Giselle Bryant and also Wendy Osefo. They are from the Real Housewives of Potomac. So now there are 3 cast members from that show that have made it onto Beyond the Gates. And I see that they gave Giselle a few lines that she usually says, which is one of her, not catchphrase, but one of her taglines. I don't know if I wrote it down, but yeah. Danny saw the interactions and thought Vanessa was seeking clients for her real estate firm. After the girlfriends talked about Danny's honeymoon, while Andre and the difficulties Vanessa's twins were still dealing with Doug's death. Danny saw the card and recognized Heart Attack attached as an escort service Vanessa had frequently solicited. Vanessa revealed that she was now running the service and delivered a word salad sales pitch about what the business provided. And Danny said, "It's still giving prostitution." Vanessa encountered that she wasn't a pimp. She was exploring the target-rich environment. "I'm more me than I've ever been," Vanessa announced as Danny said this wasn't like her. When Danny asked if Vanessa would be running an escort service if Doug was still alive, Vanessa became defensive and refused to be judged. Vanessa then let her walls down and divulged to Danny that not only had she been invisible while with Doug, she had barely seen him because of his surgeon schedule, and their sex life had been next to non-existent. She had wanted freedom and to feel alive. And with Joey, she didn't have to explain herself. Danny apologized for looking down her nose at her friend. She didn't approve Joey or Vanessa's managing heart attack. I keep wanting to say heart attack. But she understood. Vanessa's need for a distraction while she's grieving her husband. Bill, sad Bill, then found out the grass is not greener on the other side. Bill visited Vernon, who was chilly towards his ex-son-in-law. The lawyer then reminisced about the parties thrown in the Dupree mansion during his marriage to Danny. Vernon still appreciated how Bill had stepped in when Chelsea was kidnapped, but he couldn't forget how badly Bill had treated Danny. Bill admitted that he had come to regret what he had done to Danny and how it had hurt her family. But he reveled in the Dupree's love for him, but Bill didn't hate the present. And brought up how Haley longed to be a part of the Fairmont Crest community, charging that he was all Haley had. Vernon spat that Bill should have been so protective of Danny as you are with this girl, and that Bill had abandoned the family as much as he had Danny. Bill maintained that he loved Danny with all of his heart, and his time feeling a part of the Duprees had been the best of his life. Vernon acknowledged that he hadn't let Bill in as far as he could have, adding that only Bill knew if he would have behaved any differently had Vernon gotten closer to him. Bill and Vernon agreed that nothing could change the past, but when Bill again took up for Haley regarding Fairmont Crest, Vernon was resolute that Bill knew the consequences of flaunting Haley in Danny's face. The former senator couldn't forgive Bill, and he wished that Bill had done right by Danny at the end. Bill confessed that he hadn't lived up to his own standards and frowned when Vernon expressed happiness that Danny was now with someone who was devoted to protecting her. All right, Derek. Derek made his way across the Garland Memorial Nurses Station with his walker, but dropped his keys. He was surprised when Andre retrieved them for him. When Andre wondered if there was any hope in Derek and Ashley reuniting, Derek became combative, especially as Andre began to say something only to think better of it. After Andre beat the hasty retreat, Derek saw Ashley and demanded to know what Andre had been about to tell him. Ted and Shanice were friendly as he told the nursing supervisors that it wasn't too early to start putting up Christmas decorations to cheer up the patients. Shanice joked that Ted could be the hospital Santa Claus, and Ted deemed Shanice as being naughty. But she replied that she had been extra nice and deserved all the goodies. Okay, flirt. Later, Ted saw that Andre was distracted and got him to open up about Derek confronting him. Andre reported that he had almost told Derek about how Ashley had come to him to explore romantic possibilities not long after he ended things with him. Ted could tell that something had shifted in Andre as the newlywed allowed that. While he had once seen a future with Ashley, he was very happy with his wife, Danny. "Why would I expect honesty or clarity?" Derek exclaimed when Ashley said she didn't know what Andre had clearly given away. But she owned up to how she had approached Andre romantically the same day she had told Derek goodbye. Derek was furious and of the opinion that Ashley's feelings for Andre had never gone away, leaving him as second best. Ashley denied it and pivoted to Derek lying about beginning to recover from his paralysis. Derek knew he had been stupid, but conceded that he had hid his progress because he had been afraid that he would lose Ashley to Andre. It doesn't make it right, but Derek felt a way that he didn't really belong to you, per se. Ashley argued that Andre had nothing to do with the problems she and Derek had experienced. Derek didn't appreciate Ashley blaming him and retorted that Ashley had been wrong as well. They both had done things to burn their relationship down, and after Derek left, Ashley saw that Shanice had heard everything and was certain Shanice thought Ashley was as cruel and heartless as Derek did. "Was she going to have to start looking for another job?" Ashley yelped. To help Ashley gain some perspective, Shanice told her about how Derek's fellow firefighter, Cheryl, had come onto him that day after the breakup. Yet Derek turned her down out of his enduring love for Ashley. Ashley says that, "I wish you hadn't told me that." She whimpered as Andre came by to see if Ashley was all right after the talk with Derek. The nurse unconvincingly said everything was fine, though she slipped that she and Derek had been painfully honest with each other. She seemed to be their sign to move on. Andre made an awkward exit, leaving Ashley to ponder what had just happened. Yeah, so with this whole Ashley and Derek situation, look, we all get it. Ashley, he was second best to you. Derek had his fault and his own insecurities working on his behalf, but he didn't get there by himself, unfortunately, and you lied to him. You lied at how you felt, but we're going to see in the next couple episodes as to how you actually view him, and you're finally honest with yourself because you have wanted to look a certain way. Jan, she came over to Ashley's to talk about Winterfest, and the conversation turned to Jan laying it on about Ashley and her feelings for Andre. Jan remarked that Ashley was the one who proposed to Derek after all. That did it, and Ashley ended up blowing up saying, because I felt sorry for him. Boom. Boom. Both of y'all were gaslighting each other, so no one is greater than the other person in this whole situation. And the truth will set you free. Meanwhile, Derek and Jacob are at Uptown, and Cheryl is there with two others from Derek's firehouse. They laugh and joke, and the chemistry between Derek and Cheryl is so bright and loud that even the visually impaired would see it. Take the time you need, but let's see Derek with Cheryl, you know? Something different. I wonder why it took so long for Cheryl to want to shoot her shot, but if she's always known for Derek to be with old girl, then I guess she would never step in. So. Haley was slated to meet Bill at the country club, but she called him to let him know that she was going to be late. That she should keep him off, and she just said that should keep him off my ass for a while. She griped to herself as she met with Randy, telling him that he needed to procure a new, stronger batch of poison. As much as she had dosed Bill, he wasn't showing any symptoms. Randy reminded her that Bill's death had to look like it was an accident. Else, Haley would be under suspicion, and you wouldn't get any of those. I don't think you would get anything as far as those trusts, right? I don't know. When Randy wanted to know why Haley is so anxious to speed up things, Haley complained that Bill couldn't keep his mind off his rusty, dusty ex. So I'm confused. Are you just someone who marks folk and rob them, or you actually do care about the folks that you get with? That's not making any sense. Do you love him or not? Haley wanted to act before she was left in the dust, but Randy wondered why Bill found himself drawn to Danny. Haley recalled that Bill had said it was the excitement of Danny's erratic behavior that had been an aphrodisiac. I can do unhinged too, Haley scoffed, wishing she had known about that proclivity of Bill's before she had decided on her sweet and vulnerable persona. I mean, you were living in his house. It looks like you've been putting the cart before the horse this whole time, even though you did get the man. Now you got to do all these extra steps to try to get rid of him. Realizing that Bill wanted what he couldn't have, and that Bill also wanted Danny to still be obsessed with him, which she wasn't anymore. So if you realize that, then he never really wanted you. He only wanted you because you're something that is taboo, and you're not supposed to have it. Haley determined that she had to keep the exes apart somehow. Danny was on a video chat with Andre, cooing about looking forward to sex with him later when Chelsea and Naomi approached and said, NSFW, non-safe for work, calls in the country club your grandfather Bill. Chelsea said in mock horror, have you no shame? Naomi winked, and then Danny turned the screen towards the girls, and they both told him, as he said, hi, Dad. I said, oh, after the newlyweds disconnected, Danny and her daughters laughed about the interaction, and Danny told Naomi and Chelsea about exchanging vows with Andre in Los Angeles since they hadn't been able to remember their original ones in Vegas. When Danny asked if her girls were happy for her, neither Chelsea or Naomi could deny that Danny is radiant. And they were thrilled that she seemed to have found a good match in Andre. Danny saw Bill peeking in the banquet room and went right to him, wondering why he hadn't come to say hello to his daughters. Bill replied that he was waiting for Haley, though Danny said that he could stop by her table if he wanted to. Danny returned to Naomi and Chelsea, dramatically instructing them to utter Haley's name, as doing so would conjure her. Instead, the women talked about their Thanksgiving celebrations, with Chelsea hedging when Naomi got into her sister's vegan feast with Madison and her mother, which had included mashed rutabaga. I've heard of that. As far as rutabaga, I didn't know it's mashed or whatever, with dairy-free cheese sauce. The Hamilton sisters were in disbelief that Danny had attempted to cook. Chelsea insisted that her mother needed to be kept from any kind of open flame. Bill drew near and asked how many firefighters Danny had needed this time. Bill and Danny told their daughters about the time early in the marriage when, during a hotel stay, the power had gone out in inclement weather. And Danny had lit candles and attempted to heat s'mores over them. The young Hamiltons were shown in flashback featuring different actors portraying the 20th century Danny and Bill as they made out. Danny's marshmallow caught on fire. Bill was in stitches as he remembered how the panicked Danny had flunked the flaming connection, which had hit the hotel curtain and set on fire to it. Chelsea and Naomi saw their parents' delight in correcting their conflict stories and left them alone for a moment, unable to get their heads around their mom and dad acting like they used to. Chelsea confessed that she had wished for this, and Naomi eventually conceded that she had harbored a desire for their parents to reunite as well. Still, Naomi reminded her sister that it wasn't like Bill and Danny's marriage had been idealistic. As they watched Danny and Bill chuckling over old times, Chelsea suggested that perhaps their perceptions were being colored by nostalgia. They tried to change the subject as soon as they returned to Bill and Danny, who saw through it. The exes both had clearly from Pa in unison as they debated who the daughters had inherited their talent for diversion from. Haley was still at the food court when she saw Andre walking. Haley was still at the food court when she saw Andre walking by. She grinned at his wife. She grinned that his wife was probably keeping her husband company as they spoke. Now she's trying to put doubt into Andre's mind. Andre recollected that Danny had tried to team up with him to keep Danny and Bill apart and stated that he was secure in his marriage. Haley snickered that Andre was now her from 10 months ago, meaning that they traded places, or now at the point where he's got to look at Danny and Bill be a certain way because y'all know that the chemistry is still there. It's like, well, Haley, you broke them up. It's kind of weird. Andre responded that he didn't have Haley's problem and that if Bill had a wandering eye, Haley needed to step up her game. Oops. Andre didn't agree that he and Haley had fickle spouses in common and proclaimed that Haley needed to take her issue up with Bill. Haley felt Andre was blind and dared him to make a mental picture the next time he saw Bill and Danny together so he could face up to what was really going on. Soon after, Andre met Danny at the country club and took immediate umbrage to Bill's presence, presuming that there was something else he should be, and making a point to kiss Danny passionately in front of him. When Andre uttered Haley's name, she showed up. Naomi and Chelsea giggled that Danny's conjuring theory had been spot on. Again alone, Naomi revealed to Chelsea that she had talked to Bill about keeping his distance from Danny, adding that it was very bad that Danny had lit up the very sight of him. Chelsea couldn't understand it because Danny seemed genuinely happy with Andre. Naomi hesitantly proposed that Haley might be able to help them. Chelsea hoped that their stepmother could find a permanent solution. All right, so both Andre and Haley were annoyed when Danny had a burnt marshmallow sent to Bill's table as a gag. Haley made sure Danny could see her kissing Bill, and Andre didn't like that. Bill was inserting himself into Danny's life, and Danny contritely admitted that Andre was right. Besides, what she had with Bill was like marshmallow, messy, scorched, sticky, and nobody won. Danny promises Andre that what she wanted was right in front of her and followed her declaration with a kiss, which Bill saw, and Haley saw Bill's frown about it. Oh, jealousy. You never know what you got until it's gone, at least in Bill's spot or perspective. Okay, so on Wednesday, Vernon hoped that Martin's campaign manager, Shonda, wouldn't get bent out of shape from him coming on board to advise his grandson. Martin cited Vernon's impact on history as the reason he was needed and went over the issues he wanted to run on. The congressman argued that they were bread and butter issues, but Vernon deemed them perfunctory and pressed that the voters wouldn't get excited about them if Martin could. Martin was surprised to learn that Vernon had created social media accounts and was keeping up with through them. Vernon felt that Martin's constituents should see glimpses of Martin's everyday life online to humanize his campaign. I mean, you would have thought that business manager would have came up with that. Just saying. Just saying. Martin was opposed, but he didn't want Tyrell and Samantha involved. Oh, Martin wasn't opposed, but he didn't want Tyrell and Samantha involved, especially since Chelsea had been stalked through her socials and subsequently kidnapped. Vernon conceded the point, but since that the grassroots effort Martin had made to fuel his first campaign weren't going to work against his likely new opponent. Basically, Vernon said, "You got to catch up with the current times. What you did back there is not going to work." But anyways, then the talk turned into the whole Joey situation. Martin tells him that Joey had attempted to make a campaign contribution. Vernon was glad to hear that Martin had refused Joey's check and said that it had taken courage for Martin to tell Joey he couldn't be bought. When Vernon expressed regret over having brought Joey into their lives to help handle the fallout from the hate crime, Martin praised his grandfather for protecting him and securing his family's future. At Orphans, June couldn't stop raving over the Richardson Smiths Thanksgiving meal, but Tyrell was so salty with June and Samantha that Smitty had to reprimand him. Samantha saw the waitress June nearly dropping a plate and rushed to help her. June fretted that if she didn't keep up with her boss's expectations and loss of her job, she would lose her health care. Taking that to mean that June might not be well, Samantha learned that June's lungs haven't been the same since her heart problems and her bout with pneumonia. The team wondered why June hadn't stayed on top of any of the burgeoning issues before they gotten worse, but June explained that the current system didn't allow for unhoused people to have regular checkups. Plus, on the streets, survival tended to be more important than seeing to minor illnesses, even if they could become major later. After the dinner, Smitty got Tyrell to admit that he was acting out because of the possibility of losing Jessica. She should be accepted to a college in California. Seeing that Tyrell hadn't told Jessica how he felt about her, despite their short romance thus far. Smitty admitted that he didn't have experience with women, but did know that they appreciated men allowing themselves to be honest and vulnerable. Tyrell worried that confessing his feelings could push Jessica away, but Smitty noted that doing so had just as much as potential to bring them closer. Martin joined his family, who sided with Vernon about the political need to have a presence online. Then Samantha suggests, based off of her conversation with June, that Martin opened a free clinic. Both Martin and Smitty concurred that a clinic wouldn't be a simple undertaking and challenged Samantha and Tyrell to help them find ways around the red tape. Samantha wanted to stay behind and help June when the others were ready to leave. She was told that she was still grounded and that she wasn't to contact Nathan. Yet her first second alone, Samantha grabbed the landline phone and left a message for someone to meet her. Is that the Chad dude or somebody else? We shall see. Vanessa arrived at the casino with kisses for Joey, who had sneaked out early so Vanessa's Fairmont-pressed neighbors wouldn't see his car in her driveway. The realtor didn't care what others in the community thought, but in spite of Vanessa's protest, Joey was certain that Vanessa's children weren't ready to hear about the relationship. Vanessa was offended that Joey didn't seem to want to acknowledge her in public and suggested that the remedy suggested that he remedied that by being her date to Winterfest. When Joey turned it down, Vanessa said that they could only arrive separately and happened to run into each other, but Joey insisted that that wouldn't solve the problem of them being seen together. Vanessa accused Joey of being ashamed of her, and Joey countered that Vanessa had plans, and unlike him, since those doors had never been opened to him, as Vanessa kept pushing for Joey to attend Winterfest with her. Joey reminded her that one false move could give away the fact that they were engaging in money laundering, which could land them in jail. Vanessa called that a crafty excuse and stalked out, nearly running into Vernon on the way. Vernon was stunned to see her. Vanessa grinned that she was merely discussing the new adventure with her business partner. Vanessa went to the country club and sulked over a drink. This is when Diego comes and stops by, and Vanessa wondered if he would escort her to Winterfest, but he had other plans, which made her pout even more. Meanwhile, Vernon talked to Joey about trying to donate to Martin's campaign and sneered that Joey enjoyed having an influential family beholden to him. Though Vernon did respect Joey to disagree, he demanded that the casino owner steer clear of Martin's political career, and to which Joey instantly agreed. However, Joey observed that he and Vernon weren't that dissimilar, and he advised Vernon to look in the mirror the next time he tried to look down his nose at him. Oof. Eva and Isaiah meet for a casual date on which the flirtation becomes heavy. Isaiah told Eva about the first days working at Banagher University and how he had been a menace when he was younger. It was only because someone had shown up for him and he had declared to get into a career where he could do the same for other troubled kids. When Isaiah brainstormed ideas for a second date, Eva smirked that she was slightly interested, leading Isaiah saying he hoped that they could eventually get past the joking and the mask. Eva just didn't want Isaiah to waste her time or break her heart. At the hospital, Shanice barely kept her cool with a grumpy caller, then ran head on into Ted, dropping an armful of files. When Ted went and bent down with Shanice to help her retrieve the documents, their hands touched. Not acknowledging the charged moment, Shanice and Ted laughed over the food, who was still still insisted on keeping paper files. It had been since 1885 for the man in question. Ted went on. I said, Lord Jesus. After boarding the hospital elevator, Ted was in the middle of telling Shanice that he was stuck, covering for the absent Carlton when the elevator stalled. Shanice said that Ted had jinxed things by saying the word stuck and calling the temperamental elevator cursed. Ted made things worse by trying to fix it, and he called Eva to let her know that he was trapped and that she needed to reschedule some of his appointments for him. Isaiah was bummed that Eva was going to have to leave to talk to a hard-to-reach doctor, but Eva noticed that he perked up when she was able to call in a favor to have someone else run the errand. Eva, while intrigued, hesitated when Isaiah suggested that they continue to date at his place. She confessed that she was into him, but also she didn't want to lead with her head. But after her last situationship imploded, Isaiah listened as Eva said that she felt like they might be at the beginning of something that's real. When she didn't want to rush and ask if he was willing to take the scenic route, his response was, hell yeah. Caught between floors, Ted got panicky, so Shanice told him to quit being so extra. Ted playfully ruled Shanice superstitious and encouraged her to tell him about herself. Shanice revealed that she had 2 brothers and 2 sisters. While her parents were still together, she had never been married herself. The physical therapist wasn't afraid of anything except birds. Ted and Shanice recalled Alfred Hitchcock's the movie The Birds and had done its psychological damage, and Dr. Richardson remarked that for all the years he and Shanice had worked together at the hospital, they had never had such a deep conversation. Well, you were into your wife at that time. And probably didn't pay nobody else any mind, especially after you guys got back on track. The doors finally opened and Shanice and Ted were grateful to be free. But as they went their own ways, something seemed to linger between them. So, are you into this Ted and Shanice relationship, possibly? I'll be down for it. Like, let's do it. I don't want him with Leslie, out of all people. That's all I got to say. Now, something really blew up. It's kind of interesting about what's happening now with Chelsea and Madison. Madison is our girl's cat in this situation. Chelsea is Thomas. Anita went to Elon to find out if the department could spare anyone to keep an eye on Leslie at Winterfest, especially because Leslie had been harassing alleged victim Laura. Elon suggested Marcel, and Anita demurred that it was hardly necessary to task a detective with him being a watchdog, but Marcel was more than willing. At Garland Memorial, Leslie wheeled Peaches out of her room and into the nurse's station to give her a change of scenery. Leslie excitedly talked about Christmas, but Peaches, who had her mouth covered with the oxygen mask and had to write any responses on a whiteboard when Dr. Wilkes reported that Peaches would be starting her clinical trial within the week. Peaches scrawled that she was going to die anyway, so why are we doing this? Wilkes privately asked Leslie if there was anyone whom Peaches could talk to besides her. Leslie realized that Brooks had a psychiatrist in mind and got an idea. Nicole struggled with getting her Winterfest speech done before the event the next day, then took a call from Carlton, who was no longer able to take Nicole to the gala because he had to fly out of town on a family emergency. Shanice entered with a wallet that the one Nicole's patient had left in the washroom, and listened to Nicole's lament that by going to Winterfest solo, everyone would be commenting that divorced Nicole Dupree's daughter. Everyone would be commenting that divorced Dupree daughter. Oh, yeah. Shanice offered to set Nicole up with a blind date, but Nicole was hesitant. However, Shanice texted the man in question just to get the ball rolling. Anita popped into Nicole's office, having to come to Garland for test results relating to her earlier physical. It turned out Anita's bone density was at a good level. Anita quipped that aging wasn't for cowards, as Nicole declared that the Dupree women could handle anything. Leslie showed up at the door. Anita was ready to call security, but the desperate Leslie told Nicole that Peaches was giving up. And since Nicole had helped her when she had been ready to leap off the ledge, and Nicole stopped her and said, "Don't go there," since Leslie had been the one faking the incident. Leslie acknowledged Nicole's distrust of her, and when Nicole offered to refer Peaches to a therapist who specialized in terminally ill patients, Leslie humbly said she wanted Nicole to treat her surrogate mom. Peaches wasn't like her, Leslie assured, and she owned her selfish need to keep Peaches around longer. Nicole obliged, I don't know why, and after she took Peaches into the conference alone, Leslie eavesdropped at the door. Nicole had talked with her. At first, she wasn't really trusting. Nicole was able to talk her into doing the clinicals. I'm speeding up because this is getting very long. Nicole invited Leslie into the room and announced that Peaches had consented to the clinical trial. Leslie was overjoyed and thanked Nicole profusely. But Nicole said that she hadn't counseled Peaches to help Leslie. She had done it for Peaches and Eva. Later in the hallway, Marcel walked by, and Leslie cracking, "Haven't I seen you before?" And Marcel suggested that he and Leslie would cross paths again in the future. Meanwhile, Nicole was annoyed to learn that Shanice had texted her potential blind date. Shanice simply wanted Nicole to make an informed decision, and the doctor seemed to perk up when Shanice introduced her to the arriving off-screen Dr. Rawlings. Greg Vaughn, who is, to me, a soap legend, at least in the early 2000s and late 1990s, in my opinion, but hey. Only one other thing I'm going to talk about is Kat and Thomas. They were on a double date at Uptown with Chelsea and Madison, talking about how wonderful their Thanksgiving getaway had been. Madison griped that she should never have let Chelsea anywhere near her mother, Willow. Chelsea claimed that she had been a perfect guest, but Madison was incensed that Chelsea had endorsed Willow's anti-Western medicine ideas, which included a mind influencing the body and disease being caused by bad karma. Kat would only say that she knew what it was like to be that person that no one believed, and took off, leaving Thomas to referee between the arguing girlfriends. Thomas sat uncomfortably as Madison rallied that Chelsea didn't trust her enough to handle her own mother. And Chelsea couldn't make sense out of the problem Madison had with the woman. And finally, beating a hasty retreat, Thomas told the woman that they could either be right or they could be happy. Once alone, Madison expressed her hurt that Chelsea had sided with Willow instead by standing up for her. Ain't that how Kat feels every day, but everybody tries to tell her no? Chelsea winced when Madison said that she was cut from the same cloth as Bill. Ooh. And Madison left after insisting that she had made her escape from Willow, and she wasn't going to let Chelsea bring her down. Oof. Samantha talked with Eva because she wanted to see if she could open up some type of clinic for people that needed it, that did not have medical insurance. Kat interrupts, doing her normal dogmatic stuff towards Eva, and Eva got annoyed and she left. Sam had a talk with Kat and said, "Look, she wasn't trying to do anything evil to me. I was talking with her about doing some good." And she also talked about, I miss the old Kat, You have been my favorite forever and a day. So that's kind of like helping, I guess, Kat turn a corner, since everybody thinks she's the selfish brat. Do I think that Kat can be at times? But no, I just don't think that her feelings should be invalidated. Let me see, is there anything else I need to talk about out of this? Anita quickly answered the troubled Chelsea's summons. The matriarch was attentive to Chelsea, went over to Thanksgiving at the Montgomerys, and how she found that admittedly quirky Willow was nice. Chelsea thought that she had been doing the right thing in trying to bring Madison and Willow together, but it was Anita's contention that her granddaughter had gone about things all wrong. She relayed how during the first Christmas with Vernon's family, she had wanted to approach his Aunt Melba despite warnings that the family didn't get along with her. Once Anita had seen how uneasy everyone was with Melba, Anita had taken the cue and respected Vernon's feelings about the woman. Chelsea was like, I don't get it. Unable to see why Madison and Willow couldn't connect. It's not for you to get, Anita replied. She knew Chelsea's heart had been in the right place, but the only thing that was important was that Chelsea made sure Madison knew her heart. Yeah, so at this point, it's just like, it's out of your hands. And you spent an hour with these people, and Madison's been spending a whole lifetime. She knows what it is to be with her and all that good stuff. Last day, I'm gonna wrap it up because this is getting way too long. Sharon, the Articulates are back and they're attending the Winterfest. The Winterfest is about to begin and everyone's arriving. Leslie got this, to me, a god-awful outfit for Eva that just wasn't appealing. However, we thought it was kind of like a gala sort of situation, but not so. I was like really shocked at the attire that was happening, that was made for Eva, but for everyone else. You've seen Anita dressing glamorous, but nobody else was dressing glamorous at all. Ted had a little scarf. I think that was a little wink at Turtleneck Ted, you know, the original cast member Maurice. But it was just like, still, what? What are we doing here, you know? What else would happen that day? Sharon was kind of suggesting that possibly something was going on between her and Vernon, but we know it's not. It's the writers trying to play tricks with us. Kat's trying to back out of coming to Winterfest, and of course, that ruler came out from Nicole and also from Naomi. You need to be there. This is your family's thing. Da 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 da. For this is really about people that are less fortunate. But she doesn't want to be there, seeing her father dope the other daughter around, even though she's done that so many times herself. You know. I don't think there's really anything else that we can talk about. But that's a wrap. I talked way too long. But maybe next week it'll be more interesting. Again, the outfits aren't really outfitting. Everybody looked better when the Articulates came for the reunion concert. The Articulates are getting acquainted with Devon Winters, who is on The Young and the Restless. She still wants, Anita wants the other ladies to get acquainted with them before she actually joins in with them. Yeah, so that's about it. Tell me what y'all thought. I may have just read too much, but y'all let me know. I appreciate everyone for coming. Like this video, also subscribe, and until the next one, peace.